Happy holidays, everybody, and Tony here with a tribute to the second Fresh Prince of Bel-Air Christmas episode, Christmas Show, which aired on NBC on December 16, 1992. This was directed by Ellen Falcon, and it was written by Winifred Hervey Stallworth. And this also marked the final Christmas episode that Janet Hubert starred as Aunt Viv. And before I talk about Christmas Show, I'd like to talk about a few details that I should have mentioned in my earlier video. I mainly knew Will Smith as an already established movie star, considering that he was in films such as Men in Black, Bad Boys, and Ali. I had no idea that prior to his career as a movie star that he was once upon a time a rapper who went under the stage name of the Fresh Prince alongside his best friend slash DJ Jazzy Jeff. It wasn't until the 2003 Kids' Choice Awards did Will Smith garner the Kids' Choice Award for being the most inspirational person that I had an idea of what the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was. And I watched it in earnest when I was 13 when I was vacationing with my parents in Hawaii. And it was from that moment that I started to become a fan of this show. As I stated before, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was not only a sitcom, it taught me life lessons, it made me embrace the Black experience a whole lot more, as well as understand a whole lot more about Black history from the past and the present. And it's one of those sitcoms that managed to balance comedy with drama and slice of life so superbly. And I'm therefore proud to call myself a fan of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, even to this very day as an adult. And I always find myself rewatching certain episodes, and I hope to continue staying as loyal as a fan of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air ever since I was a teenager. In general, Christmas Show was a cut above Deck the Halls because of the many risks there were, as well as some really genuine moments to be found in the climax. Therefore, this is by far the best Christmas episode that The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air has to offer. It starts off with Will and the Banks about to prepare themselves for a skiing trip in Utah. What with Will and Carlton having their usual rival banter in terms of what's going to happen in the skiing resort that they're going to be in. And of course, their hilariously conflicting opinions about what skiing entails. Ashley being really apprehensive about seeing Bobby again, considering her experience in one of the previous episodes, Guess Who's Coming to Marry? And Hillary really appalled to know that she and the rest of the family have to sit and coach during their trip to Utah. Once they arrive at Utah, they meet up with Vi, Helen, Lester, portrayed by Felton Perry, and of course, Bobby, played by Ahmad Stoner. And guess who ends up arriving too, other than Janice and her newlywed husband Frank, who were married in the much previous episode, Guess Who's Coming to Marry? Where Viola used to be extremely apprehensive and utterly vehement and vociferous against Janice and Frank being married because Frank is white and Janice is, of course, Black, Viola seems oddly chipper and optimistic and really happy to see Frank and Janice together. Even Frank is weirded out by Viola's strange behavior. And it's not just Frank alone, but Will too. And it turns out that Viola has extremely strong romantic feelings for Robert, someone that Will has never met before until much, much later in Vying for Attention. And here's one of the elements that makes Christmas Show a cut above Deck the Halls. The Gilligan cuts. The first Gilligan cut is when we see Aunt Viv so convinced that they could talk it over with the real estate agent that they can change rooms and they can have a lot more beds. Unfortunately, the forest ranger slash real estate agent slash sheriff does not really buy it and states to the Bankses and the Smiths that this is what they have to live with for the next few days. And the reality is, all the houses are full throughout the holidays. The second one occurs during their main skiing trip. While Viola is so chipper to go out skiing because, as she stated, Robert taught her, Lester thinks that he could master the slopes. Unfortunately, he ends up injured with a huge sprain on his leg, especially when Helen chides him for his utter foolishness. In spite of some moments of oddness and merrymaking, there is one noticeable problem. Janice usually ends up wanting to vomit, and she confides in Hillary and her sisters that she might be pregnant. Helen, Viv, and Hillary are really happy to hear that Janice is about to expect a new baby. Weirdly enough, even Viola is quite overjoyed, which makes Hillary, Viv, Janice, and Helen think that she's being quite insane, given her previous behavior in Guess Who's Coming to Mary. Cut to some Christmas tree decorating and Will documenting every activity that his family are doing, as well as some jokes thrown here and there at each other. Carlton enters the scene and attempts to sing a solo of Silent Night, only for him to be thrown with popcorn. Instead of Carlton's first attempt at singing a solo, the family end up dancing to a jazz tune, which reminds the adults that they're going to have a party at the ski lounge, which then leaves Hillary, Will, Carlton, Ashley, and Bobby alone at the house. A seemingly unsuspecting stranger by the name of Arnold Tish, portrayed by Charlie Lang, arrives and tells them that he is quite cold, his car broke down, and he wants to spend the night with them. The initially suspicious Will and the rather welcoming Hillary, Carlton, and Ashley bring him in, only for Arnold's true colors to be revealed. He ends up ransacking the house and ties all the children with Christmas lights and duct tape. The Bankses and the Smiths are all appalled of this recent occurrence. Even the forest ranger reminds them that the only thing they can do is buy newer stuff. Even after he received details from Hillary, Will, Carlton, Ashley, and Bobby as to what Arnold looked like. Seeing that there's not much else to do, especially since Janice's pregnancy test was also stolen, they decide to make do with what they have so far. Even to the point where Will blurts out that it's most likely that the adults are going to sleep upstairs and the kids downstairs. With him in his big mouth, it seems like it's come true, with Ashley giving Will a glare and thinking that she couldn't believe that they're going to have to sleep on the floor downstairs. And there's even a nice moment between Will and Carlton, where Carlton confides in Will that he was frightened when they were being ransacked by Arnold. And just as Will is about to doze off, Carlton then admits that he loves him like a brother, but since Will ends up being asleep, Carlton loudly sings various songs, and Ashley just wants him to shut up by saying to Will that he just needs to tell him, "I love you," and then they can all go back to sleep. Will then blurts out how much he loves Carlton, and of course, wouldn't you know it, the kids go back to sleep. Things haven't gotten any better in the morning, as Jeffrey serves them nothing more than hot water, chewing gum, and tea bags to the Bankses and the Smiths. At least this gives the family the time to realize that Christmas is not about the presents and the material goods. They even reminisce about how little material that they had, but they were still very happy. Especially Viola, Viv, Helen, and Janice reminiscing that when they were little girls, their mother gave them dolls who didn't have any clothes on, but at least they were very happy playing with them. And Uncle Phil reminiscing about how he used to want a drum set when he was a little boy, but ended up playing on the pots and pans his mother and father used to cook with, and can only have them back when his mother and father were done cooking. And this develops rather nicely, with each of the family members stating that instead of material goods this Christmas, for Uncle Phil, he wants to give his family more time for him. For Aunt Viv, she wants to just be there for her family as strong as ever. For Uncle Lester, he's going to be more of a listening ear to Aunt Helen, whereas with Aunt Helen, she's going to speak a little less loudly. And by far, the best wish to come out from each of the family members was from none other than Hillary herself, as she states that she wants to be as strong and wise as her mom and her aunts, because she believes that her mother and her aunties are all strong Black women. This line alone from Hillary is a microcosm as to why I thoroughly enjoy The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. As I stated before, this show is a clear demonstration of realizing that the Black experience is not just about the clothes and the fashion and the style. It's about the human experience, and it's about what it means to stay together, and of course, what it means to have the strength and the courage to be who they are without shame and without holding back whatsoever. That line alone encapsulates everything I also love specifically about Aunt Viv, because she is a strong woman who is there for her family every single time and has managed to balance her career as a university professor and her duties as a mother to all three of her biological children and even her surrogate son slash nephew Will, and how Viola was strong in her own right to raise not only her own son, thus sacrificing her own life to be there for her family, Aunt Helen, because of how unafraid she is to speak her mind. And let's not forget about Aunt Janice, who despite the apprehension she endured under her sisters thinking that her marrying Frank was a bad idea, she still believed in herself because she knew it was the right thing for her. And she's also fully aware of what it all entails, thus nothing can stop her. And it's that moment that really showed how brilliant Hillary can be as a character. Aside from that moment of brilliance from Hillary, we even have a little bit of a banter with Bobby saying that he wants to give Ashley a noogie, and Ashley attempting to beat him up. And of course, Jeffrey states that the only Christmas present he could ever give to the Bankses and the Smiths are warm paper towels, because he's British, and I really enjoyed that piece of self-deprecating humor. With that moment of togetherness aside, the forest ranger arrives to tell the Bankses and the Smiths that he has finally caught Arnold. It's just a pity that he unloaded all their stuff. However, he also breaks the news that someone is pregnant, and that someone is, of course, Janice. If it was any wonder why on earth she was so ill, it was because she was expecting her first child. This not only makes Frank overjoyed, but the rest of the family. Even Carlton wants to have a go at the celebration by singing his rendition of O Holy Night, only for everybody to join along and for Carlton to be denied a solo once again. And the episode ends with everybody singing O Holy Night, and even Jeffrey singing the chorus, "Fall on your knees, oh hear the angel voices," before the show fades to black. This was definitely the most fun I had when it came to Fresh Prince of Bel-Air Christmas episodes. The Gilligan cuts were masterfully done. You almost didn't expect it. And speaking of the unexpected, the plot twist of Arnold going from this seemingly innocent bystander to being a full-on ransacker, and I was almost at the edge of my seat. And finally, the familial togetherness that brought the Bankses and the Smiths together as one unit. And I dare not forget about that little line Hillary stated about aspiring to be as strong as her own mother and her three aunts, which made her brilliant in that moment alone. If you have watched Christmas Show, I also suggest that you start off with Guess Who's Coming to Marry before Christmas Show, and after Christmas Show, give Vying for Attention a go to see who Robert is. You will definitely understand that there is a sequence going on in these three episodes. And for those of you who caught Christmas Show from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, what'd you think of it? Did you really enjoy all the Gilligan cuts that occurred? Was there a moment in particular that you thought stood out to you the most? Or did you feel like there was something that was completely off about Christmas Show? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's it for my tribute to Christmas Show. Tune in much later for my tribute to the third Fresh Prince of Bel-Air Christmas episode, 'Twas the Night Before Christening. So until then, happy holidays, everybody!